Hello everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome back. Yeah, back. We'll get started with the midweek market update very soon. Just waiting another 30 seconds or so to see who will go on, and then we'll take it from there. So if you have any pairs or anything you want me to take a look, you're welcome to let me know, and then hopefully get to it in that market. So let's get started. Hopefully other people will pour in as I go on. We're gonna start with Forex pair, of course, and then we'll move on to commodities, indices, and we'll wrap it up with crypto. So in that order, all right. So I'm gonna finish each market first, and then we'll jump into the other markets like that, all right. So let's go started with the Forex pairs now, and what I'm looking at. So there's a few dollar pairs that I think it could still shape up to be something. So I'll start with euro dollar first. The euro dollar is very interesting. Some of you guys are also looking at euro dollar, I believe. What I like about the overall price action here is we know that there is a potential double top here that the price is reacting. You can clearly see that we're not breaking above this area, and there is a consolidation kind of ascending channel moving up. And the previous analysis I talked about is that I'm looking for a confirmation breakout followed by a continuation. So this case alone, it didn't break out. I mean, it did break out, but it wasn't followed by a continuation. So we evolved the structure into something like this. And in this scenario, we actually broke out, and there is a consolidation here, which is the difference case between this area and this area. Okay, so again, it's different entries, different management, but what this area was, it didn't really form a correction that I was looking for to short, whereas here it clearly did look for a kind of a channel here. So I was looking at this to get in, or dollar cat. I ended up choosing dollar cat, but I think maybe some of you guys did get in because when I was looking at this one here, I did like the I did like this kind of a continuation correction. We had this impulse breakdown followed by a mini correction here. So I think all that fits into my plan to enter, but I chose dollar CAD instead. But certainly could develop into something here in the later bit, right? We could personally evolve into something a little bit bigger, and I could still look for a sell opportunity. But I do like this consolidation here after we broke out of this channel here. Okay, so that's euro dollar here. I do have that bias for a potential sell if we get the right price action, if we get a little bit more bearish confirmation here. Let's move on to pound CAD. So pound dollar. I don't know what I said. Pound dollar is another sell that I'm in, or another bearish price action I'm looking for this remaining of the week. Talk about the double top here. Talk about this. Again, correctional structure pushing the price up. And if we really just focus on this area here, this to me is just a period consolidation. I think everyone can agree that this area here is really not going much. We're just consolidating in between. So really any buy and sell in this area is going to be short-lived, right? You just have to understand when the market is correcting, there is really not much movement here, right? I see a lot of people trying to enter these lower time frame buy and sell, but again, it's going to be very limited, right? You see it's in the range, it's in the consolidation phase. But we know how market works. When the consolidation phase is over, it's finished correcting, the impulsive phase will happen, and the impulsive phase will happen fast, right? So again, my bias here is sell, right? When we look at the higher time frame here, if we just zoom out here a little bit, We're very close to this double top here. We're forming a similar structure like before as well. So I do reasonably expect this bearish move can happen. All is left to have is a confirmation from the market. If we can have a really strong push down, preferably was looking for a correction here, but as this price kind of move in this kind of curvy kind of formation, I will really invite to have a breakout from this price here. I'm fine missing any of these potential sell. I want to see a confirmation breakout from this lower time frame ascending channel and of course the higher time frame ascending channel as well. I just think there's lots of room to the downside. There's really no need to rush this, right? If you look at this, this could be a first target potentially. Higher time frame, there's so much room to the downside, right? Certainly it won't be going in one go, but it could obviously take correct, go down, correct, go down, correct. So there's a lot of entry potential in this kind of scenario. So again, patience is really key. Like there's no point entering in this period of time, right? Let the price correct. If we do get the confirmation drop, then wait for a correction here, right? If this scenario doesn't happen, if it doesn't push down, if it pushes up, I'm really not interested in the buy because the buy, if you think about it, the move has already happened, right? All this price moving up has already happened, and we're at the top here. We're at the higher time frame potential top here. So, in my opinion, the sell is going to be more promising than the buy here. Okay. Okay. So moving on to dollar cat here. Pound dollar, I just went over that, my friend. So let's talk about dollar cat here. Dollar cat, we talk about this many times. So I finally got in on dollar cat here. If we look at the higher time frame, talk about this double bottom here that the price is currently reacting to. This was the double bottom when the price started recovering anyways. And if we look at the lower time frame, talk about this descending channel moving down, and we have pretty much a smaller kind of a descending, or you can call this as a parallel channel. It's more neutral as you can see, and I've already talked about the higher time frame bias here, so this leads me to have a more of a bullish bias in this scenario. I was waiting to see if this correction will finish and have a breakout opportunity, and we did get this, right? We did have this really strong impulsive break to the upside, breaking above this correction here, that the parallel channel that we saw, and was looking for a continuation correction. So this was a continuation correction. Again, a few swing highs and few swing lows. They're not always going to be picture perfect. Remember, I always try to tell everyone that a correction is something that we're familiar with, but it's not always going to form like textbook formation, like something like this to take off, right? This is something obviously we're used to or we're familiar with, but it's not always guaranteed. It's not always going to shape it into like that. But as we know, correction is still going to have a few swing highs, a few swing lows. It's just going to be a little bit more expanding in this kind of scenario. So I just set an entry order here above the trend line, above this correction here. Set the stop loss above the previous kind of a double bottom low, and pretty much just tag me in here, push up, and kind of just consolidating here. I haven't moved my stop loss to break even yet. I think this is not enough of a confirmation for me to move it to break even yet. But I do want to see price break this high. I think this is the most important part is if we get the price to break this high here, like continue push up and then correcting, then obviously I can move my stop loss to break even because this is a very crucial area. If we don't get a bullish breakout, if we start seeing consolidation like this or something like that, that's going to make me change a little bit of bias here because that is showing me that price is failing to break this high, and instead of a bullish reversal correction from this move, well, what ends up could happening is we're just evolving into more of a bearish structure, like something like this. Okay, and that if and then we just kind of get lower time frame bearish kind of price action here and then eventually drop. That's going to change my bias here. But until that happens, I'm still holding a more of a bullish bias. I want to see what price will do in this area here. If it's just going to consolidate here a little bit and then just break up and then continue its bullish run, then I'd be happy to hold on to the trade. I talk about the first initial target will be something about here above the previous high here for about 4.321. The actual target would be top of this overall descending structure here from the overall price. So lots of room to upside in my opinion. Certainly there's going to be more entries if we do get the impulsive phase on the lower time frame. So we'll see how this goes. We'll see how this the remaining of the week and perhaps on to next week and see how that goes. All right, so that is dollar CAD. Yeah, the dollar CAD just went over here. So I'm just reading out what you guys are saying. A few pairs to go over. I'll make sure I highlight them. Kiwi, Swiss, Euro, Yen, Dollar, Yen. Yep. Dollar, Yen, Oil. Yep. Isn't dollar CAD correcting again? Sure. Lower time frame correction. It's pretty normal, right? At least we are seeing clear impulsive phase. I think this is the difference here is we do see impulsive phases on the lower time frame. We're not just seeing continuation kind of correction like this, which is better in this kind of scenario. To me, if there is impulsive phase on the lower time frame followed by corrections here, I'm happy to see how that goes. All right, so let's move on to other ones. The indices, German 30, all that, I'm gonna go after Forex player, after commodities, so it's gonna have to be a little bit longer, but I will go over that in the stream eventually, okay? So dollar yen, I still look for a potential sell, right? I've been talking about this sell for quite a bit of time. So this impulsive move pushing down followed by this correction. The longer this correction goes, in my opinion, the more potential of this sell that can happen. I like how there is a double top here. We push down, we kind of form a correction on its own here. So I'm waiting for a price to break out of this correction here and look for a lower time frame continuation. Very simple plan. I don't think this is going to change much at all. Looks really clean that we are still in a correctional phase, which is good because this is an impulsive move. And the correction here is going to confirm a potential resume of the overall impulsive phase, right? So as we know, as long as the price is still correcting within this kind of formation, there's going to be a good probability that we're going to see the next down move to the low. So again, my plan is to wait for a price to break out and then look for a continuation. Anything else here, I'm not too interested in. This can just continue move out even to the top here. And again, I'm not too interested in that either, right? But what if it does correct all the way to the top here? If there's some sort of bearish reversal from the top, I would be interested. I would be looking for something like that. But even if it just breaks out from here moving forward, it's the fine, right? It's the same kind of sell entry down to the low. So let's move on to one more one, dollar peso. This one, someone brought this to my attention. I do like what I'm seeing here. If we just zoom out here on the lower time frame, sorry, on the higher time frame, looks like there is a period of consolidation, right? There is a period almost like a descending channel here on the on the higher time frame, sorry, and that we're getting consolidation here, which is good. Strictly looking at this piece here, I like how it's more slanted, it's more descending like. So if we can get a breakout from the price here, break above, preferably break above this level here, this high here, and continuation correction, I do like this potential buy to the top, right? Enough risk reward for that entry, and looking for a potential buy entry with my dollar bias or that dollar strength bias in this kind of scenario. So, but I do want to point out that there is not much here except potential double bottom here. Okay, there is a double bottom here that can add a confluence if that fits your plan. But there is a potential here. So I want to point out this also is that the bearish move is still kind of dropping, even though there is a double bottom. We don't know if this is going to all the way push up to the high here, or we might just same as dollar CAD, we might just push up to the top here and then kind of forming into a more expanding structure and then drop. Okay, so be careful here. If you do enter something like this, preferably is to break above this high here and then a correction here. I think that's going to be a better entry here in this kind of sense. Okay. So that's dollar peso. Any question on any of the dollar pairs? Any question on the dollar pairs itself? I went over the ones that I think has better confluence in my personal plan. So euro dollar, dollar CAD, pound dollar, waiting for that to happen. And dollar yen is looking pretty clean if we get a breakout. And dollar peso, same idea, waiting for this. Yeah, I can go over dollar Swiss. So dollar Swiss, again, we're in this correction here, right? Looks like more of a descending channel. So certainly could have a bullish breakout. So similar idea is you have to wait for a bullish confirmation here, right? Break above this previous high and wait for a continuation. Similar like next dollar peso. The only difference here is I don't see a double bottom here, whereas dollar peso, I do see a potential double bottom here in the price. That's the difference. So that means the dollar peso has slightly better price action than dollar Swiss in this scenario here. Okay. I'm only going crypto after I finish all the other markets, so you have to be very patient here, okay? I have a lot to go over. I have Forex pair, commodities, indices, and a lot more. So crypto, I'm doing the very last, okay? But I will go over it. If you can't watch it, you can always rewatch the stream on my channels. I will go over every pair. So let's move on. Let's move on to a couple yen pairs. Someone asked me. I don't have too much on watch on any of the yen pairs, to be honest, but I will go over them. So someone asked about euro yen. Euro yen was looking very clean when it forms this correction. Right? We have an impulse down, we followed by a kind of a lower time frame continuation. So at that moment, I was looking pretty clean, right? We pushed down and there is a continuation. So I think some of you guys perhaps getting on this, but it failed to push lower, right? And that's a fact from the price that we just have to understand, right? We did push down, we did have the correction, but it just couldn't go lower, right? It pushed down, and then this is supposed to give us further continuation normally, but it pretty much becomes a reversal up, right? And right now, it looking like this is almost like an inverse head and shoulder, which is not good to see either. Okay, the bearish bias or the bearish price action, what was originally there is not looking too good at this moment, right? This point was looking really clean. We're looking for a sell, but as the price continued to develop, we need to adjust to what we're seeing, right? Because it doesn't have the bearish bias, what we once see here. So be a little bit more patient here. Let's see what's going to happen here. Is this going to be an inverse head and shoulder or a bullish kind of continuation pushing up? Certainly possible. So we want to see what will happen if the price hit the high here, right? Because we can still get some sort of bearish price action overall at the top, but we need to be a little bit more patient here, waiting to see what this piece will do, right? If this is going to push up higher and higher, then I'm not really interested anymore. I'm not interested in a sell anymore in that sense. But if we start kind of correcting here a little bit bigger or something like this, maybe making a structure on its own, then we can still expect the downside here. All right, so that's euro yen. Swiss yen, same thing. This ascending channel pushing up, we're still correcting here, right? Still correcting here, still in the kind of a consolidation phase, very similar like euro yen because we're still waiting to see what this piece will do. So I still have a bias. I still have a short bearish bias on the top here if we get the right price action here, right? We're still kind of just in the consolidation phase. So preferably if it finished correcting, we push down very hard and then lower time frame continuation to continue to the low. Someone asked about Kiwi yen. Yeah, Kiwi yen, again, this bearish move has happened. I think some of you guys got in on here or got in on here. Preferably is to wait to see what price will do in this sense. We did break out of this kind of overall higher time frame channel, which is a good thing. This piece of left is a little bit indecisive. So preferably you want to wait for a little bit more development, like if it can continue to correct in this fashion, which is good because we're just getting a bigger correction on its own. And the good confirmation is that we break out of this channel here, and lower time frame continuation certainly could develop here in time, and we could get that potential sell down to the low. Now, there's occasionally what may happen here, and I do agree, someone pointed this out, is that if this is a left shoulder, if this is a head, a right shoulder will develop, but it's likely to be a little bit more higher pullback, or at least to perhaps this area here. So it may or may not form some sort of flag or some sort of channel. It might just have a very strong pullback to the top like this, and then push down and then continue downwards, just making a right shoulder of the head and shoulder as well. So be careful on this one. We're not just going to short it with no confirmation, right? We want to be patient here. If you have an entry criteria, you want to wait for the entry criteria here in this sense. All right, so that's Kiwi Yen here. Morning, Steve. Nice to see you. So that's all the yen pair, guys. I don't really have too much on watch. Do you want to talk about pound yen quickly as well? It looks like we do have a consolidation here as well. I've been talking about pound yen in this structure for quite a bit of time. It looks like it's forming into what I talk about maybe a week ahead, that I mentioned if we could get a right shoulder here for this head and shoulder, I think that would be nice, especially when we see a head and shoulder at the top of the overall price, right? That's very clean to see. Personally, I would see what this correction will do. Preferably is a breakdown followed by correction, and we just push down to the bottom of the overall higher time frame channel here. That would be very good to see. Okay, so don't need to rush here. It looks like we're still going to correct here a little bit longer. So wait for that first before you jump in on any of these trades here. Aussie dollar is not on my watch list because I do feel there's better dollar pairs, better dollar. My bias on the dollar is bullet strength in dollar, right? So I'm not really seeing a bearish kind of move on Aussie dollar. It looks like it's just more of a descending kind of structure here. I'm not really seeing a bearish bias at the moment. Okay, so I'm not seeing that. I would rather focus on the other ones here that I point out. So let's move on here. Some of you guys talk about Euro Swiss. I do like Euro Swiss. So I'll go a little bit more in detail. If we look at the higher time frame, I think I went over this on the weekly outlook as well. If we can see this really strong bullish impulsive move, and we're following by a kind of a flag or channel correction, we know this is a consolidation phase, right? We know that there's a very good probability that we're going to lead to the next impulse, right? This is very basic understanding of how the price will move. Doesn't matter which time frame you're at, right? The higher time frame is just going to give you a higher time frame impulse, right? Whereas if you go on the lower time frame, if you see lower time frame move, it's going to give you a lower time frame impulse, vice versa, like that, right? So to combine multi-time frame analysis is pretty much waiting to see what this correction will finish. If we recall, we did, I think a lot of us enter a potential buy here to potentially look for a push up, but just this one here failed to even reach the high here, and we continue the consolidation. But nothing is wrong for the price because we talk about how the correction can continue to evolve. So what we thought was the end of a correction here just turns out to be expanding or continue to correct in this sense. But again, nothing wrong for the price itself because all it is telling you that this correction, it wasn't over at the time that we were looking for entry. It may continue to correct, and similar same move is happening now, right? We're seeing the same descending channel here. We're seeing the same descending channel here. So that's good confluence here. And if we look into the lower time frame here, if this descending channel is finally breaking up, perhaps looking for a continuation here would be nice. Now, you can potentially draw like this. I would prefer more as a more these kind of more slanted like that would be preferably better. But it's up to you on the entry, of course, right? It's up to you how you see this. If this is an entry that you're looking for, then of course set an entry order and look for the top two for a potential target, or this could be a first target and this would be a second target. That's kind of how I would play it in these kind of entry scenarios. So that's Euro Swiss. Any question here before I move on to other ones? I just have pretty much one or two more to go on the Forex pairs. So moving on to Aussie CAD. So Aussie CAD is a trade I've been since last week, right? If you guys recall my weekly recap videos, pretty much stay most of the time in the red. But again, follow your plan, guys, right? If I do spend a little extra time here, I want to talk about is a lot of times when this kind of happens, a lot of traders just exit their position because they think it's going to hit their stop loss. And what ends up happening is when prices are recovering, the greed, the fear of missing out comes in, and they will start entering back into the position again, and just to see a drop, and then they're going to exit again. They pop to the upside, they're going to enter here again, and then drop to the downside, they're going to exit again. So this is a good learning curve for some people who are struggling to understand this concept. Is that when you enter a trade, and if you haven't set it to break even, then let the trade run to its full potential, because when you prematurely exit a trade without hitting your stop loss, then that creates anxiety in your mind already. Every time when you look at the chart with price pulse above your entry point, that greed comes in and you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna re-enter here. I'm gonna re-enter here, right? I'm gonna re-enter here. And all these scenario all push down afterwards, and you're just gonna take 3 or 4 more losses if you continue this kind of behavior. Okay, so remember, it's not the strategy or anything that causes a trader to lose or have buying mindset or emotion. It's really that greed or emotion aspect where you need to control a little bit more, right? Like when I enter this trade here, I'm fine to hold the trade. I'm fine to let the trade take me out if that's going to happen. But other scenario, I'm just going to let the trade run, right? So if most of the time it's staying in the red, it could still go back into the red and I'm fine holding it, right? Because it hasn't break out or hasn't have reaching to the previous high or at least to one-to-one risk reward, one-to-one reward. So I'm happy to let the trade run. That is how we should do, because many often when this kind of scenario happens, we're just going to take unnecessary losses, and it creates so much anxiety and just makes trading very hard to continue, right? So I hope this helped with some of you guys who are struggling with this, because I coach enough people to tell me that this is one of their downfall, where they're just prematurely exiting a position and then getting back in and then exit again and then getting back in and exit again. That's just an ongoing process where they're just losing unnecessary money. Whereas if you hold on to your initial buy for the whole time, then you're not losing any money because it's still just one trade that you enter. The price can fluctuate, moving up and down, whatever, but you're not exiting your position prematurely and you're letting the trade run. Okay, so just a quick education there. I hope that helps some of you guys. So Aussie CAD, right? Enter the trade. I'm looking for the previous high or this high here as a first potential target. I think it's about 4.3 to 1. Looks like we're breaking out here a little bit, so we'll see how that goes. Nothing is confirmed yet, of course, right? If we get a little bit correction here, we can certainly push up higher. But preferably, I want to see past this high here. That's going to confirm the potential bullish move here. Okay, so my bias here, looking for the long, looking for the high here as the first target. All right, last one I want to go over. Someone asked about Kiwi Swiss. Not really on my watch list. The reason why is I really don't like the overall price here. This looks like something, right? This looks like almost like a descending structure or descending channel. Could potentially lead to a bullish move. I agree with that. But if we look at the higher time frame, this has been happening for quite some time now, right? This continuously kind of in this potential flag. But as it continued to drop, the less likely it can, the less it becomes more neutral. We talk about a correctional period followed by an impulsive phase, um, usually lead to the previous impulsive move, right? But you can see this is not really even an impulsive move. We push to the upside and we start falling into this consolidation for quite some time, right? So we want to wait a little bit longer here to see if this eventually will lead to a breakout of this structure here and then continue. Whereas if you just enter from here, we can certainly push the upside here and then it fails to continue higher and then start reversing. So expand this structure into something like this would be more ideal. And then look to see if we can overall push out from here. Right? But I think that's going to take a little bit more time or a little bit more development in this scenario. So I'm not really watching out for this. We'll see how that goes in the next couple of days or so. All right. So that is it, guys. That is it for Forex pairs. I don't have anything else on my watch. Euro Aussie is not on my watch list, but I do see something potential here if we get a correction, something like this. Looks like we are forming into this structure now. We have this push down for the price, and looks like we're forming into more of this kind of channel now. And there is a reversal correction here. We push down. It looks like there's another period of consolidation. We'll see how this consolidation go, if it's going to push down the price lower. Really not too interested in this because I don't see this being as clear as I would prefer a impulsive push down and a really quick correction and push down the price. Whereas there's a little bit more consolidation because I don't like seeing a correction followed by another correction, another correction. Okay, I would prefer to see a little bit more stronger impulsive move that's going to give us a little bit more stronger bias to break out and then continue down to the lows here. All right. Thank you, everyone. So that's all the Forex pair. So let's go on to commodities. I do want to talk about a few things. I do want to talk about oil. I think oil could be something here. Okay, I've been kind of talking about oil for quite some time. Um, Again, all this price that continue moving up is not interesting in me. Remember, we're not just going to sell because of some candlesticks. Okay, so make sure we understand how the price work. Shorting based on a candlestick formation or some sort of resistance level may or may not be the best beneficial in this case. What we want is a confirmation from the price because when we see a ascending channel like this, it can go on indefinitely and there's really no point just be shorting here without any confirmation. The overall move, what we want to see is a really strong impulse breakdown, right? This hasn't happened yet in any of the scenarios, so there's no entry here. But if we do get the impulsive breakdown followed by a correction, right, like what I point out here, that will kick off at least the first bearish impulse followed by a bearish continuation and potentially see the price push down to the bottom of this higher time frame structure here, right? This is getting more corrective now. This is what we want to see when we see a larger structure. And at the top of the larger structure, there is further correction, right? So correction within correction, so multi-time frame analysis. And looking for a sell here to push down, it's very good risk reward. Of course, this depends on how big this correction will be, but I think there's going to be lots of room to the downside. We're expecting this reversal to happen as well. So I'm going to pay attention closely here what the price will do in the upcoming days. I do like this sell bias that could very likely to happen if we get a completion of this structure, push down, correction, and push down lower. All right, so that's oil. I know lots of you guys are asking about gold, and it's not much change in my opinion for gold because I talk about this piece of the structure on Monday morning when we do the weekly outlook. Now, if we talk about the price has already broken out of this descending structure, right? This kind of a channel or flag. We see price actually was able to push up and then we break above this overall channel here. And I mentioned about, well, once we break out, we need to see some sort of lower time frame correction. So this could easily be a lower time frame correction. But if we look closely here, we just zoom in here a little bit more. What I really don't like about is this piece here. Now we have a few swing highs and few swing lows. I do agree that this is classified as a correction. However, this bullish push up followed by something like this was preferably seeing this to just continue, right? That's a lower time frame bias, a lower time frame bullish bias that could very likely to lead to the bullish push up on the price here. But we're not getting that. We're not seeing that at this moment. They're kind of consolidating here a little bit longer. This even push down look like it's forming a little bit of flag to push down lower. Okay, so that's what I meant by this area here. It's not something I like. Now, if this pushes down, maybe forming a double bottom and then pushes up again, sure, that would look at least better than what's currently looking at. But I'm not really seeing any lower time frame bullish bias at the moment. Okay, so we want to wait a little bit longer to see how this piece will develop because when we zoom out here, again, we don't need to rush this because there's still a lot of room to the upside if you're looking for a long. And this overall structure is valid, right? This impulse breakout is valid. This correction also is pretty valid as well, but just last bit of the confirmation here, I think will be much, much more ideal if you're looking for a bullish push up to the all-time high here. Okay. Is silver looking the same as as gold? Well, a little bit different, but I mean, gold actually broke out of the actual higher time frame structure in this kind of scenario, whereas silver hasn't, but it's kind of en route to do that, right? But I think gold has a little bit better bullish price action in this kind of scenario rather than silver. But I do see silver doing the same thing if that's going to happen. But again, if I was going to choose one, I probably would choose gold if you're looking for that bullish bias here. All right, so I don't have too much talk on silver. I think silver needs a little bit more development, or it's not looking as clean as gold. But looks like we could just continue higher, right? Preferably is to break out of this higher time frame structure, and then that will kick off to a new bullish trend, right? But until then, happy to be more on the sideline waiting to see what will happen in this scenario here. All right. So those are commodities. Let's move on to a few indices. I want to talk about the indices. I did make a video on indices if you guys are interested. You can rewatch this breakdown on the indices here. I put that video on TradingView and YouTube as well. So if you're interested, you can watch that. Now, what I'd be waiting for my bias here is for the potential sell, right? As this structure gets into this structure, what was once just a double top here, what was once just a double top here that failed to push any lower. It did push down, but it just didn't really reach the previous low like what I mentioned. But now that it evolves into a bigger correction, I like how there's another double top here now, which is the previous double top for the price to drop. We're we're back to this potential double top, and we could be getting a little bit more price action here. It's either we're going to get a mini kind of flag here and we start pushing down, or we're going to consolidate a little bit longer into something like this, similar like this, or something like similar like this correction. similar like this type of correction, and we're going to see another downside and push to the bottom of this correction here, larger correction. All right, so I like how the higher time frame, you can see that we're getting into more of these kind of a wedge now. It's getting squeezed. There's clear visible of a few swing high and few swing low, so certainly classified as a correction on its own. And basically just looking for a reversal opportunity, right? A reversal bearish push down to the low here and reevaluate to see what the price will do when we reach this low. Okay, so that's Nasdaq. I think Nasdaq is looking pretty clean, so I will be watching out for the overall move at the top here. Now, if we go to S&P 500, it's very similar. I do think they are both looking pretty clean. This is a double top potentially that the price is at. We're forming into this kind of ascending channel formation, correcting the price. And I mentioned about this top here. There could be a potential head and shoulder, right? A head and so left shoulder, head, and this potentially is a right shoulder that's developing. You can see that there is a little bit of consolidation here, which is good. Right, we could potentially look for a sell down here, and it's going to be rather short term. We'll see how this move goes when it hits the bottom of this ascending channel. If it can break out another mini correction, I do expect to push the low. But why I say short term, because we have seen price push down hard and it's just not followed by a continuation to go lower, right? So we want to be careful. From the top here, looking for the sell is good, but once we reach the bottom, is it going to continue? Is it going to break down and continue? We don't know that yet. So, but I do reasonably see a good lower time frame push down for the price. It's very possible in the next couple of days or so. If we do get that, I do think this is a pretty good sell, forming overall higher time frame double top and ascending channel reversals. Last one, Dow Jones. Dow Jones is not my favorite one. I think Nasdaq and S&P is looking the most cleanest. You can see that it didn't really even hit a double top here, but it did have an impulsive move. It did have a correction period. It did try to break out. This is not as impulsive as what we want to see. You can see it's a little bit curvy. We would prefer something like this, right? Something like a very strong impulsive move, breakout followed by correction to go. Whereas this is a little bit stalling here, but it can still break out. It can still form a correction. But here is the filtering process, right? If we're going to pick any of these US indices, I would pick the other two because they do have a little bit better price action when it comes to a potential sell. Okay. Any question here, guys, on the indices? Oh yeah, someone asked about German 30, right? Yeah, so I don't see too much here except that I do see this is forming more of a kind of a almost like ascending channel if I want to connect the lines properly here. Like something like this. So if price getting squeeze, and then push down for the price and then followed by a lower time frame correction, certainly could lead into something, but it doesn't have as good of a price action compared to these ones I point out, at least what I see here. This is more uniform. This is more of a sideways consolidation. There's a head and shoulder here as well, potentially, compared to the German 30 here, which isn't getting that here at the moment. Okay, so again, I would pick only the best one, so best one or two to get involved in this kind of scenario. All right. All right, so let's move on here. Seeing a few pairs people are pointing out. I did go over a few of them, so I'll quickly go over. Aussie dollar, I went over that already. Aussie Swiss. I saw a bunch of you guys talking about Aussie Swiss. Now, I personally don't see it the same way as you guys do, but let me explain my view on it. A lot of you guys, at least in Telegram, I saw you guys are talking about a potential sell. Now, I do agree there's a double top potentially, and I do agree some of you guys draw out this is ascending channel. I do agree, but this doesn't look like a bearish reversal, right? This looks more like a bullish channel or bullish flag to continue, right? Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but it's just that if I'm going to choose this pair, I want this piece of the price action to be at least more bearish. To me, this almost looks like an impulse up followed by a correction to go higher. That's kind of what it looks like to me. Now, I'm not sure how you guys drew or how you guys can. Well, of course, everybody has their own perspective and view, right? So honor that, stick to that. If you see this as a double top, and for if you see some sort of lower time frame bearish price action here, then execute it accordingly, right? Execute accordingly. But I'm not really seeing that. That's why I'm pointing this out, because this almost looked like a bullish continuation to go higher. Okay, so that's why I'm not really interested. And because this piece looked like a bullish continuation, and we are at the double top area that kind of contradict each other. So it's really not on my watch list in this kind of scenario where they kind of contradict each other. Double top supposed to be a potential reversal, but a bullish flag is a bullish continuation, right? So it doesn't add up in this kind of sense. Euro dollar went over many times, so I'll go over quickly again. I'm looking for more of a short bias here, right? So if this pushes down out of this overall channel here, looks like there is a period consolidation. So this could easily lead to a bearish push down. My overall bias here is looking for a sell right down to the low here or something like that. And Aussie Swiss, now on my watch list, this is pretty similar like Kiwi Swiss, very similar like Kiwi Swiss. I'm not really seeing much here. This is just too big of a consolidation, right? You could potentially draw it in like this, depending on how you see the market. But I don't see much confluence here because it looks like there's just a sideways kind of movement. This is just a period of correction that it's not really showing me much, right? Yes, there is a impulsive move pushing up, but this is getting too long and too neutral. So I'd rather be on the sideline. Now, if this pushes up impulsively followed by a correction, sure, that could lead to something, but it's the same as Kiwi Swiss, right? Like I'm not seeing much until the structure overall evolve and then breaks out and continue. Okay, so I don't see much here on Aussie Swiss. I don't see much on Castros either. Sorry, I don't see much confluence here. Originally was looking to see if this is going to push down, followed by a correction to go lower. I'm not seeing that either now. Now there is a potential correction here. Looks like they push down, correct, they push down, but this piece here almost looks like it's going to form a descending structure here to reverse, and I don't like that. I don't like seeing that either. I would prefer to see the move pushing continuously push down, because at least that's showing us that this is the top here, and on a higher time frame, this is a double top here that potentially we push down to the low here, and then to see if this is going to continue afterwards, like forming a bigger correction to go higher. But for now, because it's kind of in the middle of nowhere, so I don't like that. I would prefer other pairs in this sense. Um, So big news later, looking for dollar and yen strength. Perhaps, right? Perhaps we might get that. We don't know. I mean, anything can happen with news. Someone pointed out there is some news here. Sure, these happen once a month, anyways, right? We know that these FOMC meeting always happen on some sort of Wednesday 11, which is I'm trying to figure out the GMT time. 17 o'clock? Or no, 16 o'clock 18 o'clock GMT, sorry. It's +7 for me for GMT. So yeah, certainly can happen. We don't know what's gonna happen, right? We always know news can create volatility. So if you're in any trades, if you're in anything, best to be careful. Best to be if you're in any positions. Hopefully you have your stop loss in place. Hopefully you have anything. You understand the risks that you're involved. Potentially the news can take you out, right? So make sure you understand all that, right? Because that's part of trading, guys. It's unavoidable when it comes to something like this. So make sure you understand the risk, okay? And make sure you're not over risking, over trading, and things like that, right? Traders that I talked to before tend to trying to capitalize on a news event. So a news event happens, whether it's positive or negative for the currency. They're trying to jump in, they're trying to capture that move, and sometimes it backfires because during the news, the spread is big, everything is very volatile, right? So people tend to get caught, and then they get upset that the trade got exited or things like that. So just be careful if that kind of scenario happens. Yeah, you're welcome, my friend. So let's continue. I think the last one I want to go over is all the crypto market. There's really not much except a few that I do want to point out. I'll start with Bitcoin. Bitcoin looks like we might approach to that top that I've been talking about for a couple of weeks. But this move is kind of happening already, so it's kind of en route to follow kind of what my scenarios are here. Potentially, we're gonna reach the top here, and reach the top here is going to give us a potential scenarios in this kind of sense, right? So be patient here, because what will end up happening? There's only two scenarios, right? Either this is going to be a bearish continuation, and we're gonna go down lower, or we're just going to break above this high level and followed by correction to go higher, right? So it's very simple and it's very clear what the price is either going to do, and it's no need to rush, right? I keep getting these DM, I keep getting these messages. Should I buy Bitcoin now? Should I sell Bitcoin now? Well, this is the last confirmation you will need, right? You don't need to guess when it comes to this type of price action because it's only going to do one of these two things. And as long as you have a plan to execute them, then follow it, right? It's very simple. Okay, so with the last bit of the price here, can we reach this high? Well, certainly it's possible, right? If we get a little bit of consolidation here and then we push up, certainly has a strength to push up, and we might get this scenario here. But once we reach the high here is the most crucial part, because this correction can evolve into a more of a channel correction like this. And reaching the high here can easily just reverse down and push down lower in this exactly in this kind of scenario. Okay, so I don't recommend start buying here or whatever. The buy should happen after it broke this high here, right? After it broke this high, followed by a correction. That's going to be the perfect buy setup if that happens. If not, then watch out for any bearish reversal price action at the top here, because this can easily become a continuation correction, something that we have seen in the past, and then pretty much just have an impulse down, correction, and go down lower. Okay, so be careful. That's all I want to say is on this one. I think it's pretty clear that this piece of the price, this last bit of the correctional phrase or correctional structure, is going to give us the last confirmation of where Bitcoin, or maybe most of where the crypto is going to go. All right. I did talk about Matic. I do want to talk about Matic as well. This is something that I will be looking to enter. I like how we have pretty much if we look at this price here, it's almost like a V shape, right? This was the original buy that I took, but we're fitted with that crypto market drop. We push down, but it's followed by a reversal impulse, which is like what I like, and followed by look like a continuation correction. The continuation correction has been broken out, so I will be looking for some sort of a lower time frame correction. Looks like we're forming that right now as well. So if we get a lower time frame correction, something like this that fits our plan to enter, certainly setting an entry order would be fine to look for the price to hit the top here. As long as there's enough risk reward in this sense, I don't mind looking for entry like this. But let's see how this piece develops. If this is going to start dropping down like this, then of course no entry, right? We move on to other things because this is the last confirmation we need. If it develops into something bigger, I'm happy to enter that as well to look for a potential buy to the top. All right, so that's the only really bullish one I see. You can see across the board it's all red. Again, it's pretty typical. When the main ones are going to be in the red, a lot of these are going to be in the red as well. So I don't have too much to talk about. Someone did ask me to update Shiba. Yeah, I mean, I do see from a price point of view that this is more of a kind of a neutral correction, almost like a reversal. So we're breaking out of this correction here. We're breaking out this correction here. If there's going to be lower time frame here, certainly could be the one that push up higher. But again, it's not as bullish looking compared to Matic because at least Matic has a impulse phase followed by a correction phase, right? Whereas Shiba here is just a potential reversal, right? If this pushes up followed by another correction, then go in this correction, at least this entry here would be much better than entering here. Okay. What else? Ethereum Classic. I did want to talk about this quickly because originally we were talking about that if this is the correction that we can push higher, and if it's followed by a lower time frame correction, certainly fit our plan to look for entry, but pretty much it falls into a deeper correction. So what was once the potential confirmation now is looking more into a corrective phase. So I'm not really interested in this one at this moment. I don't really like this kind of sideways kind of consolidation. Preferably after the impulsive phase is a rather quick correctional phase before the next impulse and then continue upwards like so. But we're not getting this type of price action here. So it's best to just be on the sideline for this one. I'm not seeing much at the moment for this one either. Now, that's about it, I think. I don't really see much else on any of the crypto, unless you guys have anything you want me to take a look. Oh, I think someone asked about, if I scroll up here, CHZ, yeah. I mean, not much bullish confirmation here on CHZ, right? This almost looked like a continuation correction, right? This push down for the price, and we're looking like we're consolidating here in this phase. This might push down and go lower. So now really seeing the bullish bias here. XRP, sure. So similarly, we're kind of correcting this larger correction, and this last bit of the part, this last bit of lower time frame really isn't giving us any bullish bias, and that's the unfortunate part right now. Is we want to see bullish bias and bullish continuation, but this kind of drags on a little bit longer, so I'm not really interested at the moment here. But I do like how we're at least getting a little bit of a structure here on Ripple. And we don't know how this sideways consolidation will go, but eventually we might see a more of a bullish confirmation from the price, but not at this moment. Okay. AMP USD. I really don't have too much data. I don't know which one you're looking at. AMP, okay. Yeah, I've actually never even heard of this, but I mean, this move has already happened. You might be asking because there's a bullish push up, but I mean, there's no continuation yet, right? So I really wouldn't just jump in on the top here. You usually want to wait for some sort of consolidation here before you try to jump in on the next buy, right? Um, so far, this is probably the different crypto that actually has a bullish push up, but compared to the rest of the crypto, if you see my watch list on the right, nothing is in green, right? Nothing much is in green, so you want to be careful in this kind of sense. I'd rather wait for a continuation correction, at least that confirms the next potential up move, rather than entering here if there's no confirmation here, in my opinion. So. All right, so that wraps it up, guys. Any question, any pair, or anything else you want me to go over? A little bit quicker today, but not much is on watch. It's been like this for a couple of weeks since the crypto crash, and I totally agree because I personally don't really like to sell crypto. Certainly, you can trade them. You can trade them, in both ways, right? So if you want to sell them for a quick trade, sure. But most of the time, I'd rather see crypto in a bullish environment so we can trade and invest in the coins so you can actually grow. But if they're all going to be red for a little bit longer, then not too interesting to trade them, not interesting to sell them in that sense. Whatever the indices do have a few biases on the potential sell on most of these indices. So Nasdaq, S&P 500 are my favorite to look for a potential sell. Look for a potential sell down to like their previous low. I think that's reasonable to expect. Commodities, talk about oil, that I want to look for that oil kind of impulse breakdown followed by a correction here. Went over gold. I mentioned this last piece of the price is rather important. If we don't get any bullish price action to break up, then this may or may not be valid to look for continuation. And we went over the currency. We went over euro dollar. We look at euro dollar here. That I like how we have a kind of a breakdown for the price, right? We break out of this channel here and look like there is a lower time frame consolidation that can push the price lower, right? And talk about dollar CAD is a pair that I'm currently in. We'll see how this goes. If this is going to be a correction to go higher, that would be great to see. Other than that, not too much else. A lot of these yen pairs didn't really play out or at least continue. Euro yen was the one that I'm looking at. It just didn't continue lower, which is sometimes market does that, right? And we just have to adjust to what the market is doing. Okay, so and Aussie CAD is another trade I'm in, looking for a potential long to the top here. Someone asked about Kiwi CAD as well. Kiwi CAD potentially could be same thing. We're getting this kind of double bottom here. This can be an impulse correction. We break out now. Can we get further kind of continuation to move the price up? In my opinion, the bearish move already happened, right? The bearish move has already happened. So this can be a quick bullish recovery. We don't know, or we might be forming into a bigger structure again to the top here and then move down. We don't know that yet, but this could be a happening. This can be an impulse. This is a correctional phase. This is another impulse. This can be a larger correction. Just go lower afterwards. Okay. But in the meantime, short-term wise, my bias here is more looking like it can push up like so. All right. So any question, guys? Any question here? Anything? Did a quick recap on everything, but happy to see if you guys have any questions on anything. Is S&P 500 safe, or do I wait till Fed? Honestly, my friend, it's up to you, right? So I'm not giving any signals. So it's best to have your own entry, okay? So it's best to understand there is pros and cons and everything we do in trading. So if you want to enter here, sure, right? But you kind of pointed out too, there is a news event. So if you understand the risks, right? If you enter here, if the news will help the trade, then you're gonna have a pretty sharp bearish drop. If it doesn't, it's gonna take you out for a loss, right? So there is no best case scenario here in that sense, okay? So as long as you follow your plan, as long as you follow your plan to enter a trade, news is something that you cannot control, right? I think we all agree news is something that we cannot control. So don't let that bother you too much, right? If you have a entry that shapes out that you're looking for a sell, then sell it accordingly. As long as you don't over risk and over trade, then let enter the trade accordingly, right? But you also need to understand because there is a news, because of the volatility, you might just get tagged out for no reason, and then the price continue to your desired direction after, right? That happens a lot, right? That's what the market tends to do. So be careful on that too, all right? Euro Kiwi, let me see. I don't think it's on my watch list, at least from my view, sorry. Um, this can be a couple of things. I do think this can be a couple of things. Well, first, this could be a double top here on the recent time frame, a short time frame. And are we getting a potential kind of a, I don't want to say this is a ascending channel, I want to say more as a reversal, because this looks like we're just moving up in a corrective fashion. And if we can break down from the price followed by a correction, certainly this can lead into a sell. Now, the difference here is I still kind of, this correction here is more looking like more neutral now, right? We have this bullish push out on the price, and then it just falls into this kind of a deeper kind of consolidation. We don't know how deep or how long this correction can go. We don't know how, we don't know if this is going to be a bullish continuation correction or rather a bearish reversal. It's very hard to tell at this point because it's looking very neutral. Right, we talk about this almost look like an expanding structure that I talk about is going to be a little bit more advanced to figure out or at least to forecast the direction. So I think the best case scenario is to wait for the price to come to you. Now I mentioned if this can be some sort of a correction structure up here, if this is going to drop down followed by a lower time frame correction, at least this can confirm a push down to the low. But that doesn't mean it's going to break down to the low. It might just have this lower time frame push down to the low and then start reversing back up and then continue upwards. That's certainly a possibility because the overall descending channel followed by an impulsive move. Maybe all of this can be just a correction for this bullish move. And even this moves down to the low here, this can still reverse, right? So I'm not too interested here until I figure out what's going to happen within here. Okay. Do you place a trade after a second impulse correction to the direction of the trade? Do you mean scale in positions? I do scale in if it fits my plan to scale in. I talk about how to scale in. You're welcome to watch this video on scaling positions. I think there's one of these I did. Let me just see if I can find it. How to scale in the impulsive phase of the market condition. You can watch this video. You'll see how I mean. I do scale in positions, but I don't do it like how people do it on social media. Like you'll see the same position. You have a bunch of position open like this, and just all the same position like that. I don't recommend that. Of course, everyone trades differently and different strategies. So why I say I don't recommend that? Because you're putting your account at a greater risk if you enter 3 or 4 more of the same positions. It's better to enter when, let's say you caught the first correction. Let's say you enter here, you got in. Price continue to push up and then form another correction like this. And if you want to enter the second correction, well, at least move your first correction stop loss at break even or even at 1% profit. So when you enter the second trade, even if for any reason the second trade drops, take you out for a 1% loss, your previous position is going to cover that loss. So at the end, it's just break even for two trades, right? I don't recommend just leaving it open because it's, you know how people enter multiple positions. What if it just crash down? Let's say crash down for no apparent reason or crash down because of the news, then you're suddenly at a 4 or 5 position loss. And if they don't have good risk management, then you're gonna lose a substantial amount of that account, right? So it's better to have good risk management when it comes to scaling positions. Euro Swiss, went over that earlier. Looking to see if this is going to be a potential bullish push up. We see this as a higher time frame bullish channel or bullish flag, so to speak, right? Followed by an impulsive phase. Um, Similarly, we're seeing this kind of a descending channel like what we have seen before. Now, if we look at the lower time frame here, and this is kind of what I meant, is when we push off on the price, there really isn't a bullish continuation. Like I'm trying to draw it in, but it doesn't really make sense. It almost looks like this becomes some sort of a bearish push down, right? So quite a bit have happened. Originally, earlier, about an hour ago, I said, well, if this is a correction that you see it's fit, then you enter accordingly, right? But I personally didn't see this as a correction. So we'll see if a little bit more development here will happen. But overall, if we just look at the higher time frame, disregard what the lower time frame is doing, um, this impulse move does it look very promising, followed by this correction here. So if we do have a little bit better lower time frame price action, certainly this move can happen to the top. Okay. You got in late recap. You can watch the recap here, my friend. I already made the video on US indices and all that. So you can watch the video on YouTube or you can watch it on my trading view, but that will explain a little bit more on these. But like I said, my favorite ones is NASDAQ and S&P 500. Looking to see what the overall higher time frame and lower time frame will do. Looking to see what this last piece of the price will do. Perhaps forming similar price action like this. Looking for a sell down. S&P 500, same thing, looking for a potential sell down to the low here. What confirmation do you use before entering a trade? Again, there's a video on this that you can learn a lot more, but I will explain quickly. So risk management, 3 entries of the impulsive phase of price action. You can watch this video to learn a lot more. But basically, if I was looking for a potential trade, like for NASDAQ, there's a few scenarios here I'm looking for. Whether or not price continue to correct, that's certainly a possibility. So this could be a potential ascending channel moving sideways. Confirmation is an impulse breakdown on the lower time frame. Second confirmation, lower time frame continuation, right? So with the impulse, with the continuation, that is my confirmation for most of the trades. And you'll see me why I always say wait for confirmation, because a lot of people jump in the trade prematurely because they're just there's a lot to do with mindset and trading psychology. It's they have the FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. I personally won't have FOMO because I rather miss an entry. I rather miss a trade than jump in the trade too early and then get taken out, right? There's no, again, it's double-edged sword I always talk about. By always jumping into the trade without confirmation, perhaps you can catch all the entries, but a lot of times you take unnecessary losses because the price wasn't ready. Whereas if I always wait for confirmation, sometimes a trade will take off without a confirmation and I'll miss the profit on that. But at least I keep my account uh, more safe, less risk, etc. So it's best to choose who you want as a trader, right? Because there is really no right and wrong in this kind of scenario, and that's kind of what, since day one, I've been trying to tell everyone that trading is not right and wrong. You want to enter right here without confirmation? Sure, because sometimes price will just drop, right? And you will catch a pretty good move. But sometimes price may correct deeper and you're going to take a couple unnecessary losses, right? So that's kind of one way of your strategy. Whereas another strategy would be perhaps waiting for further development first, wait for the breakdown, wait for lower time frame continuation. That's one way of trading. Now, if I do this way, I can potentially mitigate all the potential losses here. I will enter here, I will catch this trade, and it's good. But sometimes price doesn't form that, and price just start dropping here without the confirmation that I was looking for, then I'm gonna miss this trade. So who's right and who's wrong? Neither of us, right? There is really no right and wrong. I try to make everyone think outside the box to understand that it's not ABC 1, 2, 3. It's you need to develop your own way of trading, your own way of strategy, your own way of entry, your own way of setting everything. Because following another person, especially signal, is not going to help a trader to be a better trader. Unfortunately, that is my 8 years of experience watching people following signal and just really have no clue on what's going on. Because you really need to understand, you need to have your own plan, right? You need to have your own entry and own strategy to take on the market. Because other than that, you're gonna always think about, oh, those people on social media, they keep posting profit after profit after profit. Is it true? Can I do that? Is it possible? Well, you know, don't compare your result to people on social media, right? Because social media is a lot of things are fake, right? A lot of things are demo, a lot of things are just there to sell you things they want to sell you. So the next time you see things that are too good to be true, ask yourself why they're showing you something that's too good to be true. Right? Just ask yourself that question. What is the end result that they're trying to achieve? Well, they're trying to get you to buy into whatever they're selling. Simple as that, right? Doesn't even matter if it's trading, it can be anything else, real estate, right? Amazon, right? Everything else out there, it's always like, well, let me show you things you want, right? Cars, home, houses, money, and let me show you that I have something that for you to reach that. And people buy into that. That's just people's emotion. Unfortunately, we're human beings, right? We have emotion. We're greedy. We think, well, if I can do no work and become rich, yeah, of course, right? That's just human mentality, unfortunately. So we just need to put in our own work when it comes to a lot of these things. And when you start seeing the result, you will put in more work because you understand that's the work you put in. All right. So to wrap it up, US 30, US 30 not as clean as S&P and Nasdaq, at least the way how I see it. I'm looking, Nasdaq and S&P looks a little bit better than US 30. This almost looks like a curvy. It's not as impulsive as I want to see, but we can still break down here, followed by continuation to perhaps go lower. But I would rather choose S&P or Nasdaq for the sell that I'm looking for. Um, Gold, perhaps gold is a long-term approach, right? We potentially could see this as a higher time frame structure and price could potentially continue to the upside, right? We already broke out of this structure here, so that's good. Potentially there is another continuation. But I talked about this earlier is this last bit of the price doesn't give me that bullish bias here, at least from where I'm sitting at right now. This almost looked like a bearish push down from the price to the low here. We'll reevaluate to see what will happen in this area, but preferably is to get more bullish price action on the lower time frame. Other than that, this looks clean. The overall higher time frame does look clean as well. So this impulse and move followed by correction. Impulse out of this overall channel here. and potentially there is lower time frame continuation to go higher. But I do think the lower time frame here needs to give us a little bit more development to confirm this. All right. So that is it, guys. That is it. Any other last minute question before I wrap this up? TUI. What's TUI, by the way? Is that a stock or something? TUIAG, like this one, yeah? So first time looking at this LSE, what do you mean by that? So, first time looking at this, if I look at the overall time frame, okay, so this is the previous high here, right? This is probably from COVID, yeah. So this is from COVID, right? So a really sharp drop. Looks like it recovers most of the price. If we can see, we put a bullish push out. Now it's failing to break this high, so you want to be careful. This looks like it can move down a little bit, but if it forms the bottom here and then a bullish reversal, can certainly expect this to push higher. We have seen a bunch of recovery on most of these stocks already, so I do like what I'm seeing here, but now I think price needs to break above this high here before you consider a potential entry or so, okay? I recall someone asked me to do one, if I can find it. Yeah, hopefully this is the one someone asked me to do. Fan stock, yeah. Hopefully this is the one Kirby asked me to do. Turned bearish today. Yeah, I hope this is the one you're talking about, Kirby, but this looks like almost like a potential bullish one. I hope this is the right one you're asking me to look. This almost looked like an impulse, looked like a correction to break out and then continuation. That's kind of what I see on this one, okay? Now, if I got the symbol wrong, message me on Telegram and I can take a look at it after, okay? Yeah, you're welcome, my friend. That's about it, guys. So I'm gonna wrap it up now. I'm gonna wrap it up now for today. Any further question, you're welcome to join my Telegram. You can message me on Telegram. This is my Telegram channel where I post all my links, all my analysis. Oops, sorry. All my analysis, all my links, all my trades, all the updates, things like that. You can get all the information from me here. And welcome to join my YouTube channel where I do all my analysis, all my price action videos, educational lessons, videos. They're on here. You can click the playlist. It's all divided into the right playlist, right? Risk management, trading psychology, price action analysis, etc. And on TradingView, all the streams, everything will be saved here forever, or at least on YouTube. TradingView doesn't save forever, but you can watch all my previous streams here or on my ideas for anything else. All right, so that'll be it, guys, and that'll be it. Hope to see you guys all next week. And be safe out there, everyone. Hope everyone is safe and all your families are safe. And looking to see you guys all next week. All right. Thank you very much and have a nice day, everyone.